All right, good morning. Let's go ahead and begin just finding a little bit of a meditation posture. We just want to settle our bodies down first. No need to contort ourselves or do something that feels like work. Just want to settle ourselves down and facilitate the breath as best as we can. So whether you're seated on the floor as I am on a pillow or cushion, legs crossed in any number of ways, or maybe you're in a chair or lying on your back or standing in line at the grocery store, listening in your headphones, wherever you are, we're going to begin a practice of just settling into this vehicle that is our body. Sometimes my practice of dissociation from my body is a hurdle to get over, so using the breath is a really easy invitation into our bodies. So let's just follow the breath as it comes into the body and out of the body. Following the sensations of the breath. Beginning to feel in our body where we might be grasping or opening in any moment. There's a lot to learn about our own mind and our own emotional body and our physical body by paying a little bit of attention to the breath. Just a little bit of attention can bring us a lot of information. There's subtle voices in our body holding on to expressions that we don't often pay attention to when we're just moving through our days. I think that this might be what it means to take something for granted. It's just to take it for granted maybe that because I'm able to function, I must be doing okay. But sometimes there's small voices saying, hey, take a breath, take a moment. And we don't hear them until we stop and slow down. So giving this gift to ourselves is giving this gift to each other, learning what we carry today. Let's begin to shift the breath to breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly, filling the abdomen with each in-breath and contracting the body completely with each out-breath. Remember, this is a gentle and non-violent practice of breath work. And follow your breath all the way in and all the way out. Know that you are breathing in, know that you are breathing out. Okay. So thanks for joining this morning. Thank you for being present here and present where you are. This is Journey Home Meditation's Morning Sit. I'm Michael. I'm going to be facilitating this morning as we work through a little shared meditative practice, some contemplation on some thoughts, and we'll get into some poetry today, and I'm really happy to be here to do that. So just taking a moment to notice where we've had any shift in our bodies this morning in that initial breathing practice of just breathing in to the bottom of the belly and breathing out and bringing all of our focus and attention on that breath. How has that shifted your thought body or your emotional body or your physical body? These identities that we carry. Let's have a few moments of that intentional breath to focus on that opening and that shift. Some of my teachers in the past have offered at the end of this aspect of meditation, this conscious breathing and conscious awareness into the body, this internal Vipassana style meditation, they will say, and allow a smile to come across your face. I've talked about this in the past on this morning sit. I used to think that that was such a silly thing. It felt so forced or something about it felt contrived to me, but as I think about the way that my thoughts even work, the way that I function out of belief and out of identity with my thoughts, a lot of that, all of that maybe, I don't know how much, but there's a considerable amount of my thoughts that are informed by my actions, and then my actions that are informed by my thoughts. This is a synchronistic relationship. Some would even say parasitic in some ways, but but recognizing the ability to allow yourself an expression. To allow that smile to come across your face is the moment of recognition of gratitude. It's not requesting happiness of you, but it's recognizing the joy of acceptance that is within you. That familiarity of meeting an old friend or seeing a family member you haven't seen in a long time that you love dearly. That's what it is to meet those parts of ourselves when we have even just a few moments of that silent breath, that space of going internal. There's parts of us that we haven't met in some time. And to meet yourself with joy, that is a gift. So the request to allow yourself to smile, allow a smile to come across your face, is to invite yourself into a joyous relationship with all of the parts of you. And it's much, much easier to be gentle and kind when you're smiling with someone. So as I've done this practice over time, I have learned the value of allowing a smile to come across your face. I think that we live in a time where everything is under scrutiny. And we were having conversation this morning about being able to recognize the subtle voices and recognize the expressions of need that each of us are expressing at any moment. And even that scrutinous voice, that voice of condemnation, that is a defensive voice of protection, learning who is safe and who isn't safe. And I think there is maybe I want to say some protective jadedness, some protective hardening of our hearts that we have done in this culture that has in many loud ways and many quiet ways demanded our complicity and our homogenization. And feelings and emotions, they're not homogeneous. And joy is hard to contain. And so we develop these practices of scrutinizing even joy, scrutinizing even our own positive feelings. And you know, one of the roles that I play in this life is working with mental health crisis and working through social emotional skills and understanding the language of emotion. And one of the most difficult things for people to feel and express and to be comfortable with is not feelings of painful discomfort. It's feelings of joy. It's feelings of contentedness and love and high self-value. This is what I hear often is people struggle with those feelings. There's a fear of being an egomaniac or a narcissist or spiritually bypassing. And we label things as toxic positivity. And I think that true positivity is not always being happy. It probably isn't even always meeting yourself with a smile or joy. True positivity is to meet everything without the need to negate its existence. If we want to step into the world of binary, of opposites, things that seem contrary, positive and negative seem contrary, but if we step into the world of electric flow, the flow of electric pulses, electricity, electromagnetic relationships, positive and negative are both absolutely necessary. And they work together. They're not in opposition. So I think the practice in a world where the loudest voices are creating feelings of fear and negativity and separation and isolation, then that must mean that the subtle voices are reminding us that we are still together and we are still one, and we can still meet our needs very easily. So taking this time to step into that subtle voice listening is a way we can attune ourselves to hearing even that in the midst of all of the fear and separation that's being loudly expressed. And I guess that's what I hear when I now hear a teacher say, and now allow a smile to come across your face. Because when we shine a light, others will see it, but it's for our benefit that we shine it. It opens the path for us. So let's have a few moments of seeing what that light is opening for us. Inviting the bell. So we have been working through Bell Hook's Appalachian Elegy. This is a fantastic book. The subtitle is Poetry and Place, and I think that the notion of place is really, really related very strongly to the notion of belonging, the concept of belonging. And lately I've been really seeing that the expression of need that I see people having most often comes back to belonging. And the expressions are really vast. We have all these different ways to express. Orion Foxwood is a fairy high priest. Comes from the strong Southern Christian tradition of faith healing. As a child, he was born with some physical disabilities that he had to use crutches to walk, and but he had some extraordinary abilities of energetic connection with people, and very early in life he was brought into the sort of revivalist tradition of going around. He would go to different churches and different social Christian gatherings, and he would be a faith healer as a child, 12 years old, 10 years old, laying hands, giving teachings as they came to him. And as he progressed through life and his vocabulary expanded, he started to expand his religious language. And today he is a high fairy priest, which is in a tradition of witchcraft. But he's still a Christian as well. And many people struggle with those contradictions. And I always come back to Walt Whitman when contradictions are so large. Do I contradict myself? Very well. I contradict myself. I'm large. I contain multitudes. It's a great reminder when we start to think we are one thing. We are not. And in the teachings, Orion Foxwood said, we were having a conversation years ago, he said, I believe at this point, I think of us all as gestures of spirit. It's like this over here, this is the wave of spirit's hand, and there you are. And over here is a sneeze, and there that person is. And over here is a yawn, and there's this person. This is all just spirit. We are just these multiple gestures of spirit, these expressions of being. So I think of expressions so much more vastly. The ways that we express are so multitudinous than the things we are expressing. I think our needs are very basic. Like we don't need much. But when we don't get what we need, our expressions become bigger. As our need tank empties, the expressions become louder. And we were talking this morning about the way a car will let us know when it's out of oil. Either you hear it and see it on the subtle expressions, or the car stops working for you, and that's a loud expression. And the need that I'm seeing a lot is belonging. And it's expressing itself in our modern culture in control and in groupthink, identification. I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm pro-gun, I'm anti-gun. There's very clear sides that we think we're choosing. And to me, this is all different expressions of that same need for belonging. And I think many of us don't know we belong. We just don't know that just simply by being and by breathing, we already belong. I think many of us don't know that. So when Bell Hooks writes this beautiful book of these 66 sort of love poems to place, she's writing scripture of belonging. There's a reason that all religious text and scripture is written as poetry. And poets are the voice of the divine, and Bell Hooks is telling us the gospel of belonging when she talks about place. And then you notice through these poems, they're not all like portraits of beauty and happy things, but it's an honest view of the place where she belongs. And it invites, when we hear somebody speaking lovingly of something, it invites us into that for ourselves. So Take this time to hearing these poems to invite yourself into a question of belonging. Do I know that I belong? Do I feel sometimes that I don't? Where is that feeling coming from? And is it even a feeling? Is the feeling of not belonging a feeling, or is that a belief? Beliefs are things that are difficult to change even with evidence. If you believe something strongly enough, you will ignore evidence that changes that belief. Feelings, they'll change as needed. If you're cold and you step closer to the fire, that feeling changes. Evidence changes feeling. It does not change belief. So question that. Do I often feel or often believe that I don't belong? And how does that affect my relationships? So let's see how bell hooks in Appalachian Elegy belongs today. We are on number 30. Burning pain has its own rhythm. Back and back, shaking the foundation of trees once strong, brought down by fire, by fierce want. Uprooted, all solid, familiar ground, naked now. Going once, going twice, leaving damaged and broken, unending blackness. I'm going to read it again. Burning pain has its own rhythm. Back and back, shaking the foundation of trees once strong, brought down by fire, by fierce want. Uprooted, all solid, familiar ground, naked now, going once, going twice, leaving damaged and broken, unending blackness. I like the way bell hooks talks about fire and burning in this piece, because we know fire as a natural element, but it seems that bell hooks is talking about the weaponization of a natural expression. Brought down by fire, by fierce want. And when she goes on to say, going once, going twice, seems that she's talking about the selling off of our being to the highest bidder. In the way that we come in and we clear the land, we wipe the slate clean to get rid of what's there. Maybe for profit, or to build what we want, or whatever it is we're doing when we do this. But the way that she's able to utilize both, like, all of these what we would say are natural elements, talking about the forest, the trees, rhythms, all solid, familiar ground, naked now. That idea of stripping something naked, I've been watching some documentaries on different movements of genocide and different eras and times throughout written human history about the genocide of peoples, whether it's native peoples in Western expansion, or African peoples in the African cross-Atlantic stealing of humans, the slave business of colonization, or whether it's the different holocausts that have occurred. The Khmer Rouge, the Jewish Holocaust, the queer Holocaust, like all of these different holocausts that have occurred. And the act of stripping people naked, even in the Passion of the Christ, even in the story of the crucifixion of the Christ figure, the act of stripping him naked is this way to cast shame upon something. It's really interesting. the way that this has been a thing. I don't know what else to say. It's a meme. It's a behavior of control, dominance, and yet in our artistic expressions, some of the most beautiful art and the way that we feel so beautifully in love and vulnerable is with our nakedness. So there it is, like a culture of dominance and control must cast shame upon the beauty of our nakedness, because that vulnerability is in opposition to their agenda, maybe, to that agenda. And we weaponize it, just like in the poem, weaponizing nakedness, weaponizing fire. I don't know, it's pretty beautiful, Bell Hooks. Thank you for writing this. It gives me a good visual, too, of burnt forest. Where we live in Southern Oregon, we have no shortage of burnt forests and the after effects of fire, which, interestingly, for anyone who knows, who lives in these regions, you know how beneficial the fires can be to these lands when they are healthy fires and healthy forests. There are plants that only grow after fire. Thank you to Bell Hooks. Thank you to you for joining us. Is there any conversation that wants to be had here in the space? Is there anything you'd like to share?
In the counting part, I had process. I didn't have a sell-off. I was in the middle of a fire there. First, actually, I'll go back. I saw these little sprouted trees coming up, going to the sky. Always trying to grow more and be in the sky, and the leaves. And maybe the leaves were actually in a hurry to get back down to the earth in their process. Maybe that's the one part. And then the fire came and everybody was afraid of the fire. And all the leaves were on the ground after that anyway. They all got there eventually. And then in reference to the deep, deep darkness, alluding to what you were saying about the charcoal trunks that stand today, that's all there is, that like this negative space. And it's totally attached to the ultra dark subsurface where life is really going on with the mycelium and how dark it is down there. And that process is kind of what you're saying. Is it synchronized or not? It's up to me. And Bell Hooks, right?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Yeah, one of the things that I remember often is that while we see the plants growing toward the sky, towards the light, the seeds begin in darkness. The seeds have to sprout in darkness. And so I think about that as the metaphor for our teachings that we do here. Like we're in the light right now. We're sitting in these spaces and we're growing and we're stretching our bodies and we're stretching our minds. But we're also planting seeds. When we talk about endlessly talking about compassion, endlessly talking about opening our hearts and talking about love and kindness, it seems really easy right now because we're in this kind and loving space. But that's not the leaves and the flowering of our practice. That's the seed of our practice. And that comes to us in our dark times, when it's really hard to find compassion. The more we have practiced that seed gets to crack open. And then in our hearts, we get this opening. And then it comes out of our bodies like tears. It comes out like this pouring of emotion. And that's why we cry in our dark times. And it's the leaving, the leaving of the compassion. It's leafing, it's coming out, it's blossoming. So that's where our seeds that we plant right now in our practice, that's where they grow. They grow in our dark times. Thanks for being here, everyone. I hope you we're able to plant some seeds in your dark soil today. That could almost be a double entendre. All right. All in love. Hariom.